Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to my YouTube channel Diversity of Plants Zone. In this channel, you can get every information related to the plants and their diversity throughout the world. Before starting this video, I request you all to please subscribe my YouTube channel. This channel needs your support in the form of your feedbacks, comments, subscription and likes. Today's topic of my video is about Morphology of Leaf, Part 4. Today I will discuss the fourth part of this topic. I hope that you will like this video. So, let's start the video. Today I will discuss about the topic prefoliation. Prefoliation. Prefoliation is the way in which the leaves are arranged in the bud is called as prefoliation, and it is considered with respect to the following two aspects. First is the Ptyxis. Ptyxis means the way in which each individual leaf is rolled or folded in the bud. It may be number 1 is Reclinate. Reclinate means when the upper half of the leaf blade is bent upon the lower half, as in the loquat. Second type is the Conduplicate. Conduplicate means when the leaf is folded lengthwise along the midrib, as in the magnolia. Third is the Plicate. So Plicate means when the leaf is repeatedly folded longitudinally along the ribs in a zig-zag manner, as in the fan palm. And the fourth type is the Circinate. Circinate means when the leaf is rolled from the apex towards the base, for example, as in ferns. Fifth type is the convolute. So convolute means when the leaf is rolled from one margin to another, as in banana. Sixth type is the involute. So involute means when the two margins are rolled on the upper surface of the leaf towards the midrib or the center of the leaf, for example, as in water lily. Seventh type is the revolute. Revolute means when the leaf is similarly rolled on its lower surface, for example, as in oleander. So, prefoliation. This is the prefoliation of the Cycas platyphylla, shows inwardly curled leaves, as shown in the figure. So again, this is the Ptyxis of the leaves. Ptyxis means the way in which an individual leaf is folded in the bud. This is called as Ptyxis, as shown in the figure. So this is the Reclinate Ptyxis. Reclinate Ptyxis or inflexed Ptyxis. Reclinate means when the upper half of the leaf blade is bent upon the lower half, as in the loquat. So this is the Reclinate Ptyxis in the loquat, as shown in the figure. So again, this is the Reclinate Ptyxis in the loquat, as shown in the figure. Again, in prefoliation, this is the Reclinate Ptyxis in loquat as shown in the figure. Next type of the Ptyxis is the Conduplicate Ptyxis. So Conduplicate means when the leaf is folded lengthwise along the midrib, as in the magnolia as shown in the figure. This is the Conduplicate Ptyxis in magnolia as shown in the figure. Again, this is the Conduplicate Ptyxis in magnolia. Again, this is the Conduplicate Ptyxis in magnolia. You can see very clearly in this figure. Next type of the Ptyxis is the Plicate Ptyxis. So Plicate Ptyxis means when the leaf is repeatedly folded longitudinally along ribs in zig-zag manner, as in the fan palms, as shown in the figure. So in prefoliation, this is the Plicate Ptyxis in fan palm, as shown in the figure. Again, this is the Plicate Ptyxis in fan palm. Again, this is Plicate Ptyxis in fan palm. Next type of the Ptyxis is the Circinate Ptyxis. So the Circinate Ptyxis means when the leaf is rolled from the apex towards the base, as in the ferns. So this is the Circinate Ptyxis in the ferns. Again, this is the Circinate Ptyxis in ferns. You can see very clearly in this picture. Again, this is the Circinate Ptyxis in ferns. Next type of the Ptyxis is Convolute. So convolute means when the leaf rolled from one margin to another, as in banana. So this is the Convolute Ptyxis as shown in the figure. This is Convolute Ptyxis in banana. You can see in this picture. Again, this is the Convolute Ptyxis in banana. So again, this is the Convolute Ptyxis in banana leaves as shown in the figure. Again, this is the Convolute Ptyxis in banana. You can see very clearly in this picture. Convolute Ptyxis in banana. So, banana is the most common example of the Convolute Ptyxis. Next type of the Ptyxis is the involute. So, involute means when the two margins are rolled on the upper surface of the leaf towards the midrib or the center of the leaf, as in water lily, as shown in the figure. This is involute Ptyxis as shown in the figure. Again, this is the involute Ptyxis. You can see clearly. Again, this is the involute Ptyxis. So the next type of the Ptyxis is revolute. So revolute means when the leaf is similarly rolled on the lower surface, as in oleander. Again, this is the revolute Ptyxis as shown in the figure. You can see in this figure the leaf is similarly rolled on its lower surface. So this is the revolute Ptyxis as shown in the figure. Again, this is revolute Ptyxis. So the next type of the prefoliation is the vernation. So vernation means the way in which the leaves are arranged in bud with respect to each other. So it may be the first type is valvate. Valvate means the leaves are arranged in a row and their margins simply touch each other. Petals or sepals just touching with one another without overlapping. Second type is the twisted or contorted. So the leaves are arranged in one whorl and one margin of every leaf is overlapping while its other margin is always overlapped. The sepals or petals are overlapping with one another at the margins. Third type is the imbricate. So in imbricate, the leaves are arranged in a whorl, but the overlapping is not in any particular order. The sepals or petals are overlapping one another in an irregular manner. Fourth type is the Quincuncial Imbricate or Quincuncial Vernation, you can say it. So, in Quincuncial Imbricate Vernation, the margins of the two sepals towards inward, the margins of other two petals outward. The remaining one petal, one margin is towards inner side and other margin is towards the outside. So the next type is the Vexillary. So Vexillary Vernation, you can see the imbricate vernation of the papilionaceous corolla is termed as the Vexillary Vernation. And there are two types of imbricate vernation. First type is the ascendingly imbricate and the second type is descendingly imbricate. So the first type is ascendingly imbricate. In ascendingly imbricate, the cloia of the margins are from the anterior side or lower side to the posterior side of upper side of the flower. And the second type is the descendingly imbricate. In this condition, the margin of standard petal towards outside and the margin of the two keel petals towards inner side. One margin of wing petals is towards outside and one margin of wing petal is towards inner side. And the next type is the Induplicate. In Induplicate, the leaves are arranged in a whorl and the slight inwardly bent margins of the each leaf touch those of adjacent leaves. The condition is just like the valvate. The only difference is that here the margins of every leaf is inwardly turned. The sepals or petals are folded inwards. Next type is the Induplicate convolute. This type of the vernation is a combination of twisted and induplicate types and is seen in the flowers of the convolvulus and ipomia, etc. The petals have the thick and thin portions. The thin portions are folded inwards and the corolla is twisted. The thickened portions are exposed. Eighth type is the acquitant. So in acquitant condition, here the conduplicate leaves are placed face to face and one tip completely overlaps the other by both of its margins. Ninth type is the half acquitant. In half acquitant condition, the conduplicate leaves are placed face to face in such a way that the overlapping is incomplete with only one half of the blade being inside the other. Tenth type is the supervolute. So in this condition, when one convolute leaf encloses the other, so ultimately a completely rolled up bud is formed. So in prefoliation, this is the vernation. So vernation means the way in which the leaves are arranged in bud with respect to each other. This is called as vernation, as shown in the figure. So the first type of the vernation is the valvate vernation. So in case of the valvate vernation, the leaves are arranged in a wall and their margins simply touch each other. Petals or sepals just touching with one another without overlapping. So this is called as the valvate vernation. Again, this is the valvate vernation. So the floral leaves in a wall may just touch one another at the margins without overlapping, as seen in the family of the Ananaceae or the subfamily Mimosaceae. Again, this is the valvate vernation. So it is an open kind of vernation which includes the flowers whose sepals and petals are only attached through the margins in a single wall by leaving the edges, by leaving a free space within them. So in simple words, you can see that the edges of the calyx and corolla are very close within a floral wall but do not intersect with each other. And the example of the valvate vernation is the mustard, annona, and the calotropis. So, the calotropis flower is the most common example of the valvate vernation. Next type of the vernation is the twisted or contorted vernation. So in this type of the vernation, the leaves are arranged in one whorl, and one margin of every leaf is overlapping while its other margin is always overlapped. The sepals or petals are overlapping with one another at the margin. So again, this is the twisted or contorted vernation. In this condition, when overlapping is regular in one direction, so that the one margin overlaps the next member on one side, while its other margin is overlapped by the one before, giving a twisted appearance to the bud. And this is seen in the families of the Malvaceae, which includes the China rose, cotton, etc. And the second family is the Apocynaceae, which includes the Tiwisha, as shown in the figure. So again, this is the twisted or contorted vernation. In this case, it is also called twisted or contorted vernation, and it includes the flowers whose sepals or petals are organized in such a way that in which the one edge overlaps the next edge inside. Thus, they regularly overlap the neighboring members on one side. The examples are flowers of the hibiscus, ladyfinger, and cotton, as shown in the figure. Next type of the vernation is the imbricate vernation. So in this case, the leaves are arranged in a wall, but the overlapping is not in any particular order. The sepals or petals are overlapping one another in an irregular manner, as shown in the figure. So again, this is the imbricate vernation. In this case, when the margins overlap one another but not in any particular order, as in the subfamily of the Caesalpinaceae. In imbricate flowers, the petals do not actually lie in a single wall. As shown in the figure. So again, this is the imbricate vernation. In this kind of the vernation, the outermost wall or the perianth includes the petals or sepals that overlap each other in a way that few petals are entirely inside and some are entirely outside, and thus the overlapping of the calyx or corolla in imbricate vernation is non-specific. For example, not occur in a specific position. Descending imbricate and ascending imbricate vernation are the two common subtypes, and the examples include the flowers of the gulmoha as shown in the figure. So the next type is the quincuncial imbricate vernation. So in this kind of the vernation, the walls are spirally arranged. 3 petals are external, which shadow the 2 petals on the inside. For example, in the guava, as shown in the figure. So again, this is the quincuncial imbricate vernation. In this type of the vernation, so vernation is a term which is usually used to describe the way that the petals or sepals of a flower are arranged in a bud before it opens. So in this arrangement, there are 5 overlapping structures. You can see in this figure, there are 5 overlapping structures with 2 outer structures which are enclosing the 3 inner structures. So example is the Dalonyx and Cassia as shown in the figure. Again, this is the quincuncial imbricate vernation. So in this condition, in this type, the overlapping of petals begins from the anterior to the posterior end. In this type, the wall of perianth is spirally arranged and not in a single wall. The odd posterior petal is first intersected by the margins of the 2 lateral petals, which in turn is intersected by the interior pair of the petals. Thus, in such an arrangement, the odd posterior petal is entirely inside, the 2 lateral petals are partially external, and one of the 2 interior petals is completely outside. Example includes the flowers of the Cassia and Dalonyx as shown in the figure. So next type is the Vexillary Vernation. In this type of imbricate vernation, so in Vexillary Vernation, it is no doubt a type of imbricate vernation. So here, out of the 5 petals, the odd 5th posterior, which is also known as the standard and which is also known as vexillum, one is the largest and the outermost, and it overlaps the 2 lateral petals, which are known as wings or alae. And the lateral petals again in turn partially overlap the 2 smallest and innermost petals, and that innermost petals are known as keel. And examples includes the corolla of all flower of the plants which are belonging to the family of Papilionaceae as shown in the figure. So again, this is the vexillary vernation. In this type, in vexillary vernation in plants, the largest petal, which is called the vexillum or banner, is placed on the top of the 2 lateral petals, which in turn cover the 2 smallest petals at the base. And this arrangement is commonly found in flowers of the legume family, such as the peas, beans, and lentils. It is also known as the descending imbricate or papilionaceous vernation. So again, this is the Vexillary Vernation. It is also known as the papilionaceous or descending imbricate vernation. So in this type, the overlapping of petals starts from the posterior end towards the interior side, and it includes such flowers in which the odd posterior petal intersects the margin of two lateral petals. A pair of smallest anterior petals are overlapped by the two lateral petals or wings. Therefore, in such an arrangement, the largest or odd posterior petal is entirely outside, while the keel or interior pairs are fully inside. Examples include the flowers of the Tephrosia, and the next example is Crotalaria, and the third example is the Dolichos, as shown in the figure. So next I am going to discuss the types of the imbricate vernation. The first type is the ascending imbricate vernation, and the second type is the descending imbricate vernation. So first I will discuss the ascending imbricate, and then I will discuss the descending imbricate. So in case of the ascending imbricate vernation, in this imbricate vernation, both margin of one petal are covered by the other. Two petals and both margin of another one covers the rest. So rest are arranged in the twisted manner. It is of two types. So first is the ascending imbricate. The posterior petal is the innermost. For example, its both margins are overlapped. For example, in the Cassia, Bauhinia, and Gulmoha, etc. But in case of the descending imbricate vernation, or it is also known as vexillary, it is no doubt a type of imbricate vernation. Here, out of 5 petals, the odd fifth posterior, which is also known as the standard or vexillum, one is the largest and the outermost. It overlaps the two lateral petals, which are known as wings, and wings are also known as alae, and the lateral petals again in turn partially overlap the two smallest and the innermost petals, which are known as keel. Examples include the corolla of all flowers of the plants belonging to the family of Papilionaceae, as shown in the figure. So again, these are the types of imbricate vernation. First is ascending imbricate vernation, and the second is descending imbricate vernation. But in ascending imbricate vernation, this type of vernation is found only in corolla members. So out of the 5 petals, the fifth petal is posterior, small and innermost. Other 4 petals are almost equal. Examples include the Cassia Sophera and Bauhinia Purpurea. And the next example, some members of the family of Caesar Peninoidae, or next include the members of the Leguminosae. So, in case of the descending imbricate vernation, in this type of the vernation, the posterior petal of vernation overlaps one margin of the two lateral petals. The other margin of these two lateral petals overlaps the two interior petals. which are united. Thus, the overlapping is in descending order, and hence the name, for example, corolla of Fabaceae is the example of this type of imbricate vernation, as shown in the figure. So again, these are the types of imbricate vernation. First is the ascending imbricate vernation, and second is the descending imbricate vernation. So again, in case of the ascending imbricate vernation, in this type the posterior old petal is innermost, which is being overlapped by one margin of the two lateral petals. The other margin of the two lateral petals is overlapped by the two anterior petals. Here the overlapping of petals begins from the anterior side proceeding towards the posterior side, and this is just the opposite of descending the imbricate vernation. For example, the petals of the sessile Pinaceae. Again, in the case of the descending imbricate vernation, and it is also referred to as papilionaceous vernation. So in this type of vernation, one large petal overlaps the two lateral petals or wings, which further overlaps the two small interior petals known as keel, and examples are peas and beans, etc. So next type of the vernation is the induplicate vernation. So in duplicate vernation, the leaves are arranged in a wall, and the slight inwardly bent margins of each leaf touch those of adjacent leaves. This condition is just like valvate. The only difference is that here the margins of every leaf is inwardly turned. The sepals or petals are folded inwards. Or secondly, you can say that in duplicate vernation, induplicate means where each piece is involute. For example, has its two margins bent or rolled inwards, as in the clematis. As shown in the figure. So again, this is the induplicate convolute vernation. So in case of induplicate convolute vernation, this type of vernation is a combination of twisted and induplicate types, and is seen in the flowers of the convolvulus and ipomia, etc. The petals have the thick and thin portions. The thin portions are folded inwards and the corolla is twisted. The thickened portions are exposed. As shown in the figure. So again, this is the induplicate convolute vernation as shown in the figure. Again, you can see that this is induplicate convolute vernation. Next type of the vernation is equitant vernation. So in case of equitant, here the conduplicate leaves are placed face to face, and one tip completely overlaps the other by both of its margins, as shown in the figure. Again, this is the equitant vernation. You can see very clearly in this picture. So again, this is the equitant vernation. Next type of the vernation is supervolute vernation. So in case of the supervolute, when one convolute leaf encloses the other, so ultimately a completely rolled up bud is formed. This is known as supervolute vernation. Again, this is supervolute vernation. It is also referring to a type of leaf vernation in which the blade margins are unequally enrolled adaxially, such that one of the margins overlaps the other. So now you will ask, what is the meaning of adaxially? So adaxial means next to axis, facing the stem ventral. So this is the Supervolute vernation, newly emerging leaf of the Anthurium hookeri, as shown in the figure. Again, you can see in this figure, this is Supervolute vernation in the Philodendron Pusillum, as shown in the figure. So next, these are the different types of vernation, and you can see very clearly in this picture. The first type is Valvate, second type is Valvate Induplicate. So the third type is Twisted, fourth is Ascendingly Imbricate, fifth is Descendingly Imbricate Vexillary, and next is the Quincuncial, and next is the Induplicate Convolute. So these are different types of estivation or different types of the vernation as shown in the figure. So again, these are the different types of the vernation and or different types of estivation. So first is the Valvate, second is Twisted, third is Imbricate, fourth is Quincuncial, and the fifth is Vexillary, as shown in the figure. So again, these are the Ptyxis types. The first two rows are the Ptyxis types and the last two rows are the types of vernation proper. So in first row, you can see that the first type is the Reclinate Ptyxis. So in case of Reclinate Ptyxis, when the upper half of the leaf plate is bent upon the lower half, as in the loquat, as shown in this figure. So this condition is known as the Reclinate Ptyxis. So Ptyxis is usually considered as the rolling or folding of individual leaves. Second type of the Ptyxis is the Conduplicate, and Conduplicate condition when the leaf is folded lengthwise along the midrib, as in the guava, sweet potato, and camel's foot tree or Bauhinia. Third type of the Ptyxis is Plicate. So when the leaf is repeatedly folded longitudinally along the ribs in a zig-zag manner, for example as in the Borassus, flabellifer, Borassus flabellifer. So the next type of the Ptyxis is the Circinate. So in condition of the Circinate Ptyxis, when the leaf is rolled from the apex towards the base, like the tail of a dog or as in the ferns. Next type of the Ptyxis is Convolute. So in condition of Convolute Ptyxis, when the leaf is rolled from one margin to the other, as in the banana, aroids and pennywort, musa, and the members of the Eraceae. Next type of the Ptyxis is involute, when the two margins are rolled on the upper surface of the leaf towards the midrib or the center of the leaf, as in water lily, lotus, sandwich of island climber, which is also known as the Antigonon, and the plumbago. Next type of the Ptyxis is the revolute. So it is opposite of involute Ptyxis. The margins of the leaf are rolled up towards the under surface of the leaf or the lower surface of the leaf. So next I am going to discuss the types of the vernation in the last two rows. You can see these are the types of the vernation. So usually in simple words you can say the meaning of the vernation is the way in which the leaves are arranged in bud with respect to each other. And the first type of the vernation is valvate. Valvate is an open vernation that includes the flowers whose petals and sepals are only attached through the margins of a single whorl by leaving a free space within them. That condition is known as valvate. And invalvate vernation in plants is a type of the prefloration in plants where the margins of the floral organs, petals or sepals are in contact with each other without overlapping in the floral bud. Examples of the valvate condition is sweet pea, garden pea, yellow wood, etc. So the second type of the vernation is imbricate. In imbricate vernation, it is a type of the prefloration in plants where the floral organs such as sepals and petals are arranged in a manner where the margins of the floral organs overlap each other in the floral bud. This results in a bud that appears to be covered in the scales or tiles like shingles on the roof. And the examples include the flowers of gulmoha. Next type of the vernation is the contorted or twisted vernation. So twisted vernation in plants, also known as contorted vernation or convolute vernation, is a type of the prefloration in plants where the floral organs such as petals, sepals, etc. are twisted or rolled up longitudinally in the floral bud. Examples include ladyfinger, cotton, and hibiscus flowers. Next type of the vernation is Induplicate vernation, where each piece is involute. For example, has its two margins which are bent or rolled inwards, such as in clematis. Or in second case, the leaves are arranged in a whorl and the slight inwardly bent margins of each leaf touch those of adjacent leaves. This condition is just like the valvate. The only difference is that here the margins of every leaf is inwardly turned. The sepals or petals are folded inwards. And the next type of the vernation is the equitant. So in case of the equitant, here the conduplicate leaves are placed face to face and one tip completely overlaps the other by both of its margins. Next type of the vernation is the half equitant. So in condition of half equitant, conduplicate leaves are placed face to face in such a way that overlapping is incomplete, with only one half of the blade being inside the other. So such condition is called as equitant. Next condition is the supervolute. So in condition of supervolute, when one convolute leaf encloses the other, so ultimately a completely rolled up bud is formed. So this is known as the supervolute condition, as shown in the figure. So next I am going to discuss the different types of the Ptyxis again. So the first type of the Ptyxis is the Ptyxis cotyledons. So cotyledon Ptyxis means the classification which is based on the position of cotyledons in seed. So first type of the Ptyxis cotyledons is the Conduplicate. Conduplicate means the cotyledons folded lengthwise along midrib, with one cotyledon covering the other and inner cotyledon covering the hypocotyl, as shown in the figure. Second type is of the cotyledon Ptyxis is the Contorted. Contorted means with weirdly folded corrugate cotyledons. And the third type of the cotyledon Ptyxis is the diplicoloball. So in condition of diplicoloball with incumbent cotyledons which are folded 2 or more times. And the next type of the cotyledon Ptyxis is the spiroloball. In this condition with the incumbent cotyledons which are folded once, as shown in the figure. So second type of the Ptyxis is the classification which is based on rolling or folding of individual embryonic leaves and arrangement of embryonic leaves within a structure. So this is the vernation according to most of the authors, and the first type is the Circinate. So in condition of the Circinate means with the lamina rolled from the apex to base with the apex in center of the coil. Second type of the Ptyxis is Conduplicate. So in Conduplicate with lamina folded once adaxially along midrib or midwing. Now the question is, what is the meaning of adaxially? So adaxial means next to axis facing the stem ventral. Next type is the convolute. So in case of the convolute with one lamina enrolled in another lamina, this is known as convolute. So the next condition is the corrugate. So the corrugate means with lamina irregularly folded in all directions or wrinkled. Next type is curvate. Curvate means with the lamina folded transversely into an arc. So this is also known as curvative or arcuate condition of the Ptyxis. Next type is the inclinate. In inclinate condition with the lamina folded or curved transversely near the apex. Next type is the involute. In involute condition with the lamina margins enrolled adaxially. So what is the meaning of adaxial? Adaxial means next to axis facing the stem ventral. Next type is Plicate. So in Plicate Ptyxis with the many longitudinal folds in the lamina. With many longitudinal folds in the lamina. This is known as Plicate. Next type is the Reclinate. So in Reclinate condition with lamina folded or curved backwards from near its base so that the embryonic blade is parallel to its petiole, hypocotyl or stem. So the next type is the Replicate Ptyxis. In the Replicate Ptyxis with the lamina folded once abaxially along midrib or midwing. Now the question is, what is meant by the abaxially? So it means the away from the axis, the lower surface of the leaf or dorsal. So the next type is the revolute. In such condition of the Ptyxis with the lamina margins enrolled abaxially. Again, what is the meaning of abaxial? Abaxial means away from the axis or the lower surface of the leaf or dorsal. So the next type or the last type is the supervolute. So the supervolute condition means with the lamina with one edge tightly enrolled and with the other loosely enrolled, covering the first loosely convolute. So these are all the different types of the Ptyxis as shown in the figure. If you like my video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and press the bell icon as well for further notifications. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for your time and appreciation.